I am going to tell you and show you guys today why doing a pay-per-lead business model with a client is a recipe for disaster. Okay. I have done it. I've done it many times and I refuse to do it anymore. So just to backpedal a little bit. And by the way, just so everybody understands, if you're new to rank and rent, you're new to local lead generation, a pay-per-lead model is when you go to the business owner and you say, hey, ma'am, hey, sir, I'm going to give you a lead and you're going to pay me X. And no matter how many leads I give you, you're going to give me that much times, whatever we agree on times the leads, right? In theory, it's a really good idea for you as a marketer, as a lead generator, because in theory, there's no cap. There's no ceiling on it. The more you produce, the more you're going to make, right? In theory. And in theory, it's an easy sell. You say, hey, look, guys, and I'm speaking like I'm talking to the business owner. Look, guys, all you got to do is pay for what I send you, and that's it. You're not going to have any risks. You're not going to have anything like that you have to worry about in that regard. And so it looks really good on paper. But let me back up a little bit and tell you guys the mistake that I made. So back 6 years ago, I bought, just a really brief story. 6 years ago, I bought my first program on how to do rank and rent lead generation. That program also taught me SEO, taught me a lot of the things that I actually still use today and know today. It was a really solid program. And I did what a lot of people do is I got into the program and I put it on the shelf. I actually made some money, which is the worst part. And then I put it on the shelf because I was one of those people that was too good for the business. I didn't want to have to tell people, hey, Nick, what do you do? Oh, I do marketing. Like that sounded lame to me at the time. And so I was like, and of course I was insecure and, all these things. And I wanted to tell people that I did something cooler. And so to me, owning a software company sounded so cool. So I tried to do that. I tried to start a software company. It literally failed miserably. That's a completely different story that I could take. It could take videos and video after video of the lessons that I learned what not to do, but we'll save that. Anyway, fast forward, I put this thing on the shelf. Fast forward a couple years later, I think it was a little over almost 18 months. And I had a failed business. I had debt. I had 2 cars. I had a mortgage. I had a wife and I had 2 kids. And I had $3,000 in the bank with a house payment coming up very soon, car payments coming up very soon. And I did the only thing that I knew how to do. And I took that program off the shelf and dusted it off and I started doing it. And the first thing I started with was SEO because, hey, they give me quick money. It's kind of guaranteed for me, whatever. And I went down that path. And for 6 to 8 months, I tried to build an SEO company. Now, thank goodness it got me out of my immediate problem and I was able to pay my bills and all that different stuff. But I realized really quickly that was not scalable. And so I got back into lead generation. I said, look, I know this is the way to go. I know lead generation is the only place to scale. And so I did that. So that I did correctly. But I did a lot of other things incorrectly. I chose the wrong niches and all this stuff. And the biggest problem that I made, the biggest mistake I made is I did a pay-per-lead model because I wanted that path of least resistance. Luckily, I was smart enough. I knew that commission was never going to be something I was going to do. I've only done one commission deal to date. And it was literally like I told him, let's do flat fee for 1 month. Let's do commission for 1 month. Of course, the commission didn't work. Wasn't good for anyone. So I knew that wasn't good. But pay-per-lead to me sounded good. So I tried it out and everything looked good on paper. And we actually had some really good months, good enough months that I started hiring staff. I got an office. I got my CRM and my softwares, and I got my bills nice and high with my business. And then the winter came, and any of us in local lead gen, a lot of us are in the home services space, whatever that niche may be or niches. And in the winter here in the US, I know that a lot of people watching this will be overseas in Australia and in different spots, but in the US, in the winter, home services or let's say December, right? There's a winter for everybody, but in December for us, the home services, it drops because people are focused on the holidays and they're traveling and they're just not thinking about it as much. So my first winter was rough. I saw a really big drop in my income because, everything is based on how many leads, right? So you have good months, it's great. You're like, I'm kicking butt, but it's really scary because you could have great leads today, this month, and next month it could completely dip and you could be in a, big, like really bad spot. And that's what happened to me. And it happened to me. I'm sad to admit, I'm ashamed to admit a little bit that I actually went through 2 of those winters. I waited and did it a whole extra year before I finally realized, like, Nick, this isn't working. And I finally decided and realized, hey, I got to do I got to do flat fee only where the revenue for me is guaranteed, where I can project how much money I'm going to make. I can put contracts in place and all these different things. And that, we're going to talk about that later, but let me tell you why pay-per-lead doesn't work, okay? Because on paper, it looks great and everyone wants to do it and all these different things. But here's what happens. Once you get in with, let's say it's a tree service company or a concrete company or a duct cleaning company, they're all fine and dandy to agree to a pay-per-lead deal, okay? Because it's very little risk for them. However, what you're going to find is, number one, there's going to be a disagreement on what is a lead. What is actually a lead, okay? Is that a name and phone number? I don't know. Maybe you think it is. Maybe they don't. Is it a lead? Is it a name and phone number that's a homeowner? Okay. Is it a name and phone number and email and a homeowner and somebody that wants a quote? And it's very difficult to figure out, like, how do you define a lead? Okay. And then even if you do that, once you define the lead, there becomes this other issue. Okay. Well, I'm sending the leads to this guy or this gal, this business owner, but they don't answer the calls because they're business. They're business. They are business, but they're busy and they're on a job. And so the call goes through. It's a legitimate lead. They don't answer. And I want to get paid on that. But they're going to argue back and say, hey, they never answered. Why am I getting charged? You see where I'm going with this, right? And so there becomes these different layers. So that's just the beginning. Then what happens is, let's say you get all those things like sorted out. Then this is the challenge, is once your SEO kicks in, once all your strategies start working and you start jumping up in leads, right? Because in your head, you're like, this is infinite potential and growth and all this stuff. There is a cap in each business owner's head, and they are comfortable paying up to a certain amount. And every business owner is different. So your duct cleaner, he might be in his head like, okay, $100 a lead for easy math. I can pay, 10, maybe up to 15 leads, and I'll be comfortable with that. But what happens when you go from doing 10 leads and charging them $1,000, and then 1 month it hits and you jump up and you do 50 leads and you send him an invoice for $5,000? I'll tell you what's going to happen. He ain't going to pay it. She's not going to pay it, period. They're going to come to you. Hey, we need to meet. They're going to cancel, just so you know, number one. But then what happens is they start telling you all these extra criteria. They don't want to cover certain zip codes. And now if the customer doesn't answer, they don't want to touch it. And now, if the customer isn't within a certain amount of revenue, or sorry, if the job size is a certain size, they don't want it. All these different factors come into play, and now they only want to cherry pick the very best jobs. And I promise you, there's a different point for each business owner. Some business owners will let it climb a little higher. There always will reach a point, and it's usually sooner than later, where they're going to come to you and say, hey, I got your invoice. We got to go through this, man. And not only does that, think about this. Every single month with every single client, and if you're like me, I bill either weekly or bi-monthly. Can you imagine doing that for every client every single month or multiple times a month? There's no scalability there. Having a 1 hour call, this is a lead, this isn't a lead, even if it's not a call and it's an email to go through, guys, it's not worth it. If you want to scale, if you want to make big money, pay-per-lead is not the way to make big money. Now, there is an exception. There is one exception. That is if you're working with a very, very large company and they do not care. They can take as many leads as possible and they don't care. They just want them and they want them and they want them. It changes the game a little bit because you can send them as many as you want, but you're still going to deal with what is a lead and what is not a lead, and what is a good lead and what is not a good lead. And ultimately, it's going to become a problem. So the solution that I have found is this. And this is why I preach this and I teach this, and I will go to my grave saying the holy grail of holy grails with local lead generation and with rank and rent is flat fee. For those that don't know what I'm talking about, that is when you go to the business owner and you say, look, ma'am, look, sir, you're going to pay me X amount per month or per week or every 2 weeks, whatever it is. And I am going to give you everything from this website or these websites. And that's just how it's going to roll. And look, Mr. Business Owner, in the spring, it's going to be higher. And in the winter, it's going to be lower. But this thing's all going to even out. And that's the only way to scale, because then you don't have to worry about going back and forth on leads. Then you don't have to worry about, hey, you're sending them too many leads. Because if it's a flat fee, guys, they will take as many leads as you can send them because it drives down the cost of their lead. Okay. So it has been in 2019 in December is when I decided I will no longer do pay per lead. Now, if I had pay per lead clients, I've maintained those. I figured out some things to kind of curb all the time that I'm spending and wasting. But since that time, I have not put together one single deal for pay per lead, and 100% of my business that I've gained since December of 2019 is flat fee deals with a contract. And that's just how I roll. Guys, if you like this video and if you want to learn more about selling and pre-selling, that's a step further, flat fee deals for your websites that you've either built or are planning on building, I'm going to leave a link in the description. I have a Facebook group that is literally all about selling flat fee deals for your existing websites. It is free for now, and I will see you there.